How does this differ from the old law? Well, the old law had some typical instructions that were pretty much like I just gave you, but I'll go over them real quick. You get a ticket and you have a locatable line, you were to put paint on the ground within reasonable accuracy. That was option one. Option two, if you had a line that you operated and it was not locatable, you could not put paint on the ground, the old law said you were to provide the excavator with the best available information you had. But the third option under the old law said, if you strongly believe that your buried presence would be made obvious by your above ground presence, like manhole covers, valves, cleanouts, vaults, drop wires, etc., you didn't have to do anything. You didn't have to communicate, you didn't have to put paint on the ground, because that clause was called the Appurtenance clause, and it was meant to say the excavator will instinctively know based on what's on top of the ground where the buried lines are. Meaning, they're supposed to line these things up and assume that that's where your buried line existed. Now, does everything get installed in a straight line? Of course it doesn't. It's hard to get it done. It's the goal, but it doesn't always happen. So having that section of that clause in the old law meant very often the excavators were, one, guessing. Did they use the Appurtenance clause, or did they just forget me or not locate this at all? Or two, the assumption was made that the excavator was going to dig in the blind based on what? X-ray vision? Lining up things that may not be lined up? It was bad law. And even though we had people sitting at the table on this revision that had been a part of the original law team, they couldn't remember how that clause got in there. So it had to go. The Appurtenance clause was removed, except for water. Water can be very difficult to find, and we had to compromise and say maybe the Appurtenance clause needs to stay in for water. But in any case, whatever option you choose, you have to give the excavator something within 2 business days. Paint, triangles, or available information.